The author has completed a 1,000,000-word battle with the same person, please rest assured to watch. Tang San. I have two divine positions, the Sea God and the Shura God. Not only do I covet the son of Douluo continent's Qi luck, but I can also divide my daughter's soul to obtain soul beast Qi luck. Why, are you not convinced? There is already a way to take death. Xue Bei. I admit that Your Excellency is very strong, but oh. If I were the king of destruction in the backstage of the divine realm, I could still inherit a throne and resurrect the former angel god Qianrenxue. At the same time, I would also be one of the three heroes of the new Heavenly Dou Federation, the father of the human soul-guided industrial revolution, and the guardian of the far north. How should you respond? Tang San. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Man is in the peerless world, resurrected angel has no pop-ups, Douluo. Man is in the peerless world, resurrected angel. Download the complete text, Douluo. Man is in the peerless world, resurrected angel. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1. The correct solution to crossing the Douluo continent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The correct solution to crossing the Douluo continent, Shrek Academy. Xue Bei stopped his lesson preparation work, stretched lazily, rubbed his eyes, and then picked up a glass of goji berry water and walked to the window of the office. In the distance of his gaze was the distinctive landmark of Shrek College, Sea God Lake. Heishan Lake has a vast area and beautiful scenery. Every summer and autumn, students from both inner and outer colleges go boating on Heishan Lake to cool off. After traveling for so long, I finally managed to secure a teaching position at Shrek College. Xue Bei said. That's right. He, Xue Bei, is 20 years old and a traveler. The era that Xue Bei traveled to was exactly the era of the unparalleled Tang clan in Douluo continent, which was 10,000 years after Tang San and was about to belong to Huiyuhao. Of course, after crossing Xue Bei, this era may not belong to Huiyuhao anymore. Teacher Xue, congratulations. You have become the homeroom teacher for the new class in the new semester. In the same office, many teachers also congratulated Xue Bei. Although Xue Bei passed the teaching qualification exam and taught students at Shrek College for several years, the teaching quality is also guaranteed. However, Xue Bei has not been able to implement the staffing system because he was not a teacher trained by Shrek College himself, but someone else who joined the college's teaching staff. And now Xue Bei has finally made a name for himself, and the staffing has been properly implemented, giving him a feeling of being a wife for many years. The teachers are also happy and proud of Xue Bei as a colleague. You know, Shrek College doesn't lack any teachers at all. Many students who graduate from inner or outer colleges choose to stay at Shrek College to teach, and those outside the college cannot even squeeze into the establishment. Xue Bei was able to become an insider of Shrek College from an outsider, and he also had great strength and luck. Ha ha ha. I'm just the deputy class teacher. Director Dou said I still need to accumulate a few more years of experience with other teachers. Xue Bei gave a subtle smile and awkwardly scratched his head. Director Dou is also right, the other teachers agreed. Director Dou is Dou Weiluan, the external teaching director of the Martial Soul Department at Shrek College. Teacher Xue, who is the head teacher of that class, asked the teacher. It's Teacher Zhou Yi, Xue Bei replied. The teacher's office suddenly fell silent. The expressions of all the teachers looked like they couldn't hold their breath when they heard something against the heavens. If it weren't for everyone's rich education and blood oxygen, they might have shouted loudly. Zhou. Teacher Zhou Yi. Xue Bei nodded and then, as if thinking something else, added. I also know Teacher Zhou Yi's temper. Teachers. Last year, Zhou Yi was too strict when teaching third-grade students, which led to only 1/10 of her class being promoted to 4th grade, which is well known throughout the school. This matter has escalated, students complain angrily, and their parents also complain angrily, so the college had to temporarily demote Zhou Yiming to the freshman year. Teacher Xue. I will teach students well together with Teacher Zhou. Xue Bei said a sentence, then put down the goji berry water and walked to the door. Everyone, I have more classes to attend later. Let's go first. Although first-year students did not enroll, senior students started school early. Xue Bei walked out of the teacher's office and then out of the purple teaching building. With his soul power running at his feet, he hurried to the soul fighting area at the northwest corner of the martial soul department in the outer courtyard. This is the place where Xue Bei teaches swordsmanship to middle and senior students. Xue Bei came to Shrek College to teach, and his theoretical foundation is definitely solid. He himself is actually inclined towards theoretical research, especially in the study of angel martial souls, and has made many achievements. Teachers like Xue Bei usually explain the knowledge in professional textbooks such as martial soul cultivation to students, which may not be too basic but not too advanced. But later, after Xue Bei showed off his superb swordsmanship, Du Weiluan, the head of the martial soul department at the outer college, immediately decided to offer a swordsmanship elective course to 4th and 5th grade students at the outer college. It's not mandatory, it's just an elective. After all, students need more time in soul power cultivation. This is also the reason why 6th grade students do not have this elective course, because 6th grade students from other colleges are already preparing to graduate, and the graduation test is for soul power cultivation, which cannot pass. That being said, but since opening this course, Xue Bei's classes have been overcrowded, and there are also 6th grade students coming to listen. It's not that every student at Shrek College has a swordsmanship mindset, as if tomorrow Shrek College will become some kind of big swordsmanship academy, and it's purely Xue Bei. She looks good. Xue Bei has black hair, black pupils, and straight eyebrows, appearing particularly clean and refreshing among a group of people with mixed hair in the Douluo continent. His skin is white and pure like a sparkling jade. Some students have commented that Xue Bei's refreshing and transparent feeling is like dewdrops on bamboo leaves in the morning. Of course, Shrek Academy is not a college that looks at faces. What people value most is their soul power cultivation. Xue Bei's appearance can only be considered a bonus point, and his true hard power is his swordsmanship level. The students who registered for course selection in the Soul Fighting District gathered early and waited for Xue Bei. For 5th grade students start school earlier than lower grade students, and their schedule is already arranged. This is also the first swordsmanship elective course for these students. Xue Bei didn't hesitate to bring his students to a sword training room that he specifically applied for the college. This sword training room is large and spacious enough to accommodate 100 people. Unlike the metal battle platform in the soul fighting area outside, the sword repair room is entirely decorated with wooden floors, which are polished to make it stand out. The walls are painted snow-white, and iron and wood swords are hung on wooden frames. Ironwood sword is a special type of wood that has the hardness and durability of metal, but it is not real metal and will not be injured by mischievous students who cut it. However, for soul masters, even a sharp iron sword is only used by commoners, because the martial soul itself is the best weapon for soul masters. Xue Bei asked the students to stand in 4 rows from high to low and observed the expressions on their faces. Fortunately, there doesn't seem to be any thorns in it. My name is Xue Bei, just call me Teacher Xue. I don't break any rules in class, just one thing. Xue Bei kicked a student who was standing crookedly. Don't be late. The crooked student stood up straight. Now, everyone go get their swords. Xue Bei waved his hand and didn't talk nonsense to the students. He went straight to work. The students went over, each holding a sword. The students of Sword Martial Soul still hold their swords in a stylish manner, while the students of Sword Martial Soul hold their swords like monkeys who have just learned to pick up wooden sticks. Xue Bei is not the first to encounter such a situation, and he doesn't care about them. Let's follow his own teaching progress first. Xue Bei's body flashed with a golden light, and at the same time, all the students temporarily lost their ability to use their soul power and martial soul. In today's first lesson, I will only teach you one thing. Restrain your instinct to use martial souls, and only practice your own swords. Of course. The students of those sword martial souls were released from confinement, although they could not use their soul power, they could still release their martial souls. Xue Bei smiled and revealed his big white teeth, saying, "It's about sword martial soul, of course, it's still about practicing one's own sword." Xue Beiguang, relying on such a skill, intimidated the students beyond measure. The ability to limit the opponent's martial soul and soul power should only be in the domain of the title Douluo. And does the 20-year-old teacher Xue Bei in front of him already have the domain ability that can only be possessed by the title Douluo? Or is it to say that Xue Bei himself is a title Douluo? The students made various speculations for a while, with a calm face and a chaotic heart. How can I let a ban Douluo teach me? Without correcting the students' posture first, Xue Bei instead asked them questions. Can anyone talk about kendo? Xue Bei waited for the students to raise their hands while also going to the wooden frame to get an iron wooden sword. Out of dozens of students, 3 or 4 raised their hands. Xue Bei had already memorized the faces, names, and martial souls of each student during lesson preparation, and as expected, they were all students with swordsmanship and martial souls. Xue Bei did not answer, but raised his iron and wooden sword and waved his hand. The eyes of those students with swordsmanship souls lit up at the same time. Even non-swordsmanship soul students could see the extraordinary charm in Xue Bei's simple start of hand movement. So, what is kendo? The students of those swordsmanship souls suddenly stopped talking. Xue Bei just started like that, and in the eyes of the experts, he was also a top expert. They didn't want to make a fool of themselves. The way of swordsmanship is to embody the spirit within, and to show one's composure outside. Seeing it is like a good woman, and taking it away is like fearing a tiger. The pattern of the sword is to wait for qi, and to follow the spirit. A girl standing behind said loudly. Not only did the students of sword martial soul look back in surprise, but even Xue Bei looked back in surprise. The students of sword martial soul were surprised because their understanding of swordsmanship had completely surpassed theirs. The reason why Xue Bei was surprised was that he made this up himself. Teacher Xue, am I right? The girl tilted her head and gave a slight smile. She has a slender and symmetrical figure, with long hair flowing in large waves at the back of her head. Her skin is snow-white, and her eyes are like a pool of clear water. She is incredibly beautiful. Xiao Jiang, classmate. I have opened a new book, and I hope readers can support me a lot. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Jiang Nan, whom Xue Bei has already saved. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Jiang Nan, whom Xue Bei has already saved. Xiao Jiang's name is actually Jiang Nan, the first beautiful woman in the outer courtyard and the common school flower. Before Xue Bei's travels, he sympathized with the fate of Jiang Nan in the book. It cannot be said that Jiang Nan and Su Sanche are unhappy together. Xue Bei, as an outsider, is not qualified to comment. The fact that the victim eventually forgave a rapist and lived together really tests Xue Bei's values. So, Xue Bei helped Jiang Nan when he was in Tiando City. It's quite a coincidence. Xue Bei had been teaching at Resurrecting College for some time that year. Although there was no establishment, he had also accumulated some salary. Xue Bei's personality is one of those who earn money and save it to enjoy, so he went on a trip to the Heavenly Soul Empire's Tiando City for tourism. The famous city, which has existed and been well preserved for 10,000 years, is even more gimmicky than the Tang San city in the past life of Xue Bei. It's right there, Xue Bei met Jiang Nan, who almost sold himself to the Xianming family. At that time, Jiang Nan was a student at Resurrecting College. Due to her mother's serious illness, she needed Xuanwu Shendan from Xianming sect to treat her illness. Therefore, She accepted Qianrenxue's invitation to sell herself. To be honest, this is a very disgusting thing. If you want to say voluntarily, no one really deliberately pressured Jiang Nan. What do you mean, Nan? You don't want your mother to have no medicine to take, do you? But if you want to say voluntarily, Xue Bei has traveled for so many years, and after seeing so many things, he actually feels that the Qianming sect is truly a noble family or has kept its promise. Compared to the generally uncivilized nobles, the Qianming sect belongs to the category of digging for gold in feces. But after all, Jiang Nan is still a student at Resurrecting College, rounded to the nearest student taught by Xue Bei himself. How could a teacher know that their students are going to be killed and still watch them helplessly? If it happens, Xue Bei really has no way, but this has not happened yet. It's just a Xuanwu divine pill, and if you spend a large amount of gold soul coins, how can a good girl sell her virginity? Xue Bei intervened to stop Jiang Nan and also bought the Xuanwu divine pill from the Qianming sect. This can also be considered as the tiny butterfly wings flapping of Xue Bei, the traveler. As for whether this behavior will be criticized and said, warm men's volleyball behind the dog, Xue Bei doesn't know. In the days to come, Jiang Nan was naturally filled with anxiety and gratitude, and Xue Bei also intended to cultivate a relationship between the two, so they became friends. Xiao Jiang is right. Kendo is indeed like this, but it is based on my understanding of Kendo. Xue Bei raised his iron wooden sword and scanned every student with his eyes. Everyone's swordsmanship is different, even the same type of sword spirit will have different sword meanings. Of course, this is too difficult for you. The students looked at Xue Bei in confusion. So what I'm teaching you is just the foundation. A foundation that allows you to feel the meaning of the sword. Xue Bei walked one by one, helping the students adjust their sword-holding positions. A strange field constantly emanated from Xue Bei, and wherever he passed, the students holding the sword all had a clear understanding. Another field. The students opened their mouths wide in front of Xue Bei, their hands and feet stiff, dumbfounded and at a loss. Who exactly is Teacher Xue? There are two fields that Douluo can hope to obtain with the title of Douluo that have appeared here. In the era of Dou Er, the title Douluo had not yet depreciated, so it still had a strong deterrent effect. Study hard, this kind of enlightenment is temporary. Xue Bei patted the student's shoulder and also said, isn't it just a field? Look at how surprised you are. Students. Xue Bei continued to correct the student's starting posture, keeping the field open to help them understand the meaning of the sword. The sword intent brought by this field is only temporary, similar to when Xue Bei was in high school, his teacher taught math problems. When you follow the teacher to solve the problem, it's natural to be as stubborn as garlic, but once you have to do it yourself, there are various situations. Xue Bei's teaching did not make everyone a leader in swordsmanship, he only hopes that his classmates can learn a little about what he has done. After all, what he teaches is only the basics. Whether with or without talent, the importance of swordsmanship lies in the basics. Diligence without embellishment, 50 years as one day, is the key to becoming a great talent. Xue Bei taught the students the simplest and most practical swordsmanship techniques, as they were able to straighten out their starting positions: direct lunge, backstroke, flat sweep of lunge, left thrust of lunge, knee lift and flat slash, downward lunge. The most basic swordsmanship in Xue Bei's hands was as sharp as a sword that sealed his throat, yet it was as entangled as a stream with endless moves and moves. The students of several sword martial souls looked delighted, their eyes full of admiration as they looked at Xue Bei, eager to learn from their master on the spot. After that, even through diligent study and practice, students have become familiar with the most basic sword techniques. After all, everyone is a soul master, and their memory is definitely better than that of ordinary people. There will be no situation where they forget half of what they have learned. Since you are all familiar with the basic swordsmanship, let's pair up and confront each other. After Xue Bei and other students practiced well, they began to let them freely play. The teaching at Resurrecting College focuses on practical experience, claiming that everything must be tested on the battlefield. Therefore, although theory is important, practical experience is the main theme for Shrek College students. Swordsmanship textbooks emphasize practical combat. How can we not allow students to practice against each other? Teacher Xue, I want to talk to you. A few classmates looked up and raised their hands at the same time. After speaking, they looked at each other again. It's awkward between each other. Teacher Xue, I want to practice with you. Just as there was a moment of silence, a crisp voice rang out, and everyone looked around. It turned out to be Jiang Nan. Several students of sword martial soul couldn't help but furrow their brows, slightly dissatisfied with Jiang Nan's ability to exploit loopholes and pick up loopholes. Damn it, I came first. To practice. With me. Xue Bei was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and said, okay, then come over. Xue Bei said so, and Jiang Nan also moved to stand opposite Xue Bei. The classmates coincidentally put down their iron and wooden swords and formed a circle to watch Xue Bei and Jiang Nan practice their swordsmanship. One is a swordsmanship teacher, and the other is a beginner student. Everyone secretly pokes and expects the common school flower to be abused by Teacher Xue. Teacher, please. Jiang Nan looked very arrogant, and surprisingly let Xue Bei take the initiative. You go ahead, I don't know how to use soul power. Xue Bei naturally wouldn't bully a student, he just raised his iron wooden sword and waited for Jiang Nan's attack. Jiang Nan held her breath and stared at Xue Bei with a smile on his face. Based on her understanding of Xue Bei, usually, when Xue Bei looks at you with a smile on his face, he has already figured out a way to solve you. The two faced off like withered pine for about 10 seconds. Jiang Nan was as tense as steel, and her classmates were all watching her, thinking about where to launch an attack from the next second if she were Jiang Nan. Xue Bei still puts a lot of pressure on everyone. The scene remained deadlocked, no one dares to disturb or urge Jiang Nan to take the initiative. This is not about watching the excitement, everyone rushed to urge others to fight quickly, and when they started fighting, there was fun to watch. After finishing, they could still applaud and cheer on the side. In swordsmanship, a long confrontation often requires only one breath to determine the winner. Drink. Jiang Nan took a big step forward and broke the deadlock. She drew her sword and lunged straight towards Xue Bei's chest. Taking the initiative, lunging and stabbing, no matter which offensive strategy, this is not wrong. Pop. Next second, the sword in Jiang Nan's hand had already fallen to the ground, and at the same time, the tip of the sword was pressing against his neck. After a long time, the students only then understood what Xue Bei had done in a short moment. Xue Bei quickly drew his sword and hit Jiang Nan's hand, then sealed his throat with the tip of his sword. The three characters of swordsmanship are fast, accurate, and ruthless. Xue Bei collected his sword and looked at all the students. The meaning of the sword is difficult to practice, but swordsmanship is not difficult to master. Jiang Nan picked up her sword and was not at all annoyed. Anyway, in the days of Tiandou City, she had already become accustomed to such a degree of disastrous defeat. Thank you, Teacher Xue, for your guidance. Jiang Nan saluted, and before he could finish speaking, a student from the sword soul next to him eagerly stepped forward and said, Please teach me, Teacher Xue. Please teach me, Teacher Xue. The students of those sword martial souls had a green light in their eyes and gathered around them at the same time. Xue Bei. Well, it's always a good thing that students are eager to learn. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Angel Gods in the Mirror. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 4. The Avengers selected by Qianrenxue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Avengers selected by Qianrenxue. That's not Xue Bei's face, that is a woman's face. The woman in the mirror looked like she was in her 20s, with snowy skin, straight-nosed bridges, slender phoenix eyes, but with a hint of authority. There was also a small six-winged angel imprint between her eyebrows. In front of her, the most beautiful woman in the outer courtyard, Qianrenxue, may be comparable in appearance, but her imposing demeanor, which has been in power for a long time, can never be imitated. Because this woman is the angel god from thousands of years ago, the legacy of the Pope in the Martial Soul Hall, and the owner of the Orthodox Divine Level six-winged angel Martial Soul Qianrenxue. Sister Qian, Xue Bei called out. Xue Bei and Qianrenxue met 11 years ago, when Xue Bei was 9 years old. When Xue Bei crossed the Douluo continent, he was a baby and his family situation was not particularly good. He was a farmer and also a tenant farmer for the landlord. So when Xue Bei was young, he had an immersive experience of the rural tenant family life on the Douluo continent. I can't starve to death temporarily, but I can't eat well either, unable to read or recognize words. There are also landlords urging for rent and endless farm work. The most crucial thing is, due to the absence of the Martial Soul Hall, a free organization for awakening martial souls, in Douluo continent, when Xue Bei was 6 years old, he didn't even have the opportunity to awaken his martial soul for free and become a soul master. Tang San of Dog Day. What a beast! Xue Bei scolded Tang 3,000 times but did not clear his grudge. Before crossing over, cursing Tang San was not painful or itchy, but when Xue Bei himself truly travels to the Dou era and cannot awaken his martial soul, then it is true that he hates Tang San to the bone. It takes money to find the official soul master of the Heavenly Soul Empire in the city to awaken the martial soul. Jiang Nanan's family, no matter how poor, is still a master of the capital. They can afford to smash pots and sell iron, and a rural household in a remote area cannot afford this money even if they smash the pot and sell iron. Xue Bei has also considered self-rescue, but his parents only believe that Xue Bei's so-called methods of getting rich are heretical and evil. Be down to earth in farming, be an honest person, and know how to treat your parents well. This is the only thing this peasant family can teach Xue Bei. At that time, Xue Bei felt that his life was over. My family is a tenant without land, it is also impossible to awaken the martial soul, and the ascending channel to become a soul master is blocked, even because of their young age, they have no voice at home. Ah, the future will be a life passed down from mortgage to mortgage, yet numb and indifferent. Then Qianrenxue came. When Xue Bei sighed alone that his heart was higher than the sky and his destiny was thinner than paper, Qianrenxue suddenly burst into his spiritual sea, facing the sunlight without saying a word of greeting. Xue Bei can now recall that day. In the dim yellow grass of autumn, there were only Qianrenxue and him. Xue Bei was catching a mosquito bite, while Qianrenxue appeared with a smile. The slanting sunlight shone on the fields, and Xue Bei felt as if he had petrified, with only one heart jumping abruptly. The straw grew wildly, and the sunset set, accelerating time 100 times. I, Xue Bei, traverse, hanging up. According to the plot of Douluo continent that Xue Bei has watched, the angel god Qianrenxue should have lost his divine position and disappeared into the long river of history. But in this parallel spacetime, according to Sister Qianrenxue's self-description, she relied on the accumulation of the angel family in the martial soul hall for thousands of years, surviving in the form of a lingering soul for 10,000 years. She deeply despised Tang San and waited for the opportunity to be resurrected before preparing to retaliate against him. And Xue Bei is the chance she chose for resurrection. Xue Bei. The lineup of crossers and rebirths. Tang San has had a good time this time. As for why Qianrenxue still retains his divine sense, Xue Bei said that since he can travel through it himself, it is not a problem for Qianrenxue to maintain a residual soul state and have a chance to resurrect. Moreover, resurrection is not without precedent. Tang San's sentence, resurrect. My love people to this day, it is deafening and sensational. So, what if Qianrenxue has a chance to resurrect? Qianrenxue helped Xue Bei awaken his own martial soul. The diamond chisel, a tool that can distinguish metal minerals. Then Qianrenxue gave Xue Bei another martial soul, which is the Sword of Angels martial soul. In this way, Xue Bei became the owner of the twin martial souls. At the same time, Qianrenxue also taught Xue Bei the cultivation methods. That's it. Xue Bei spent 11 years, from a level 10 soul warrior to the current 6-ring soul emperor, from a rural child in a remote area to a teacher at Shrek College today. Can you be selected as one of the top 10 inspiring figures in touching Douluo continent? Qianrenxue's soul floated out of the mirror on the ceiling, and Jiang Nannan was still eating normally, as if he had not noticed anything unusual about Xue Bei here. Back then, you helped Jiang Nannan's mother treat her illness and sought the Xuanwu divine pill without expecting anything in return. It was indeed for her, wasn't it? Qianrenxue's tone was quite off. Sister Qian, unlike your father, I don't know how to deal with my own students. Xue Bei chose to directly attack his father in the face of Qianrenxue's sarcastic remarks. It's not considered an attack either, just talking about what Qianrenxue has done. Qianrenxue's face was indeed very awkward. After staring at Xue Bei for a while, he could only hate and say. Can we skip mentioning this matter? I won't mention it. Xue Bei nodded and glanced at Jiang Nannan again. What's up with you coming to me? Qianrenxue stared carefully at Xue Bei and said, when can you cultivate to the level of title Douluo? Ah. A question mark appeared on Xue Bei's head and he smiled puzzled. Sister Qian, you've been waiting for 10,000 years. Do you still care about these 10 years? Xue Bei is only 20 years old now. Referring to Tang San's age, he will become a title Douluo, at least 5 years later. Moreover, Xue Bei doesn't think he cultivates faster than Tang San. Xue Bei improves his soul power level by absorbing soul rings through diamond carving of martial souls. Qianrenxue shook her head seriously and said, I have felt Tang San's breath. He is getting closer and closer, and I'm sure he has set his sights on the mainland. If you don't resurrect me as soon as possible, you will regret living when Tang San catches you. I know better than you who Tang San is. Xue Bei nodded, then his eyes suddenly turned to playful. Moreover, even if you are resurrected, you may not be able to defeat Tang San. 1,000 feet of snow. Tang San has both the Sea God and the Shura God positions, and she is indeed unable to defeat them. Anyway, you should first cultivate to the title of Douluo. In the future, Tang San's attention will become more and more focused on the Douluo continent, and you won't have much time. Qianrenxue awkwardly retreated into the Sea of Spirit. I know. Xue Bei nodded cautiously. Qianrenxue closed her eyes and instantly returned to Xue Bei's spiritual sea, but when you open your eyes, she seems to have returned to that night 10,000 years ago, that Senro hell. Tang San has become a towering sea god, the Tiando Empire, Xinglua Empire, and the aristocratic sects led by Haotian's sect and Qibao Liuli's sect divided all the wealth of the martial soul hall. Classics, soul bones, secret books, gold and silver, cultural relics. In order to eliminate the influence of the angel god, they also burned the martial soul city clean with their last flame. Tang San, you damn it. In the ancient city with its burning hexagonal walls, under the gaze of the ancestors of the ancient and noble angel family, Qianrenxue wore a red veil long skirt, barefoot, dancing in the flames. That is the dance of angels, the dance of revenge, the dance of sacrifice. Qianrenxue has lost the position of angel deity, and her martial soul has also been shattered, even with only 89 levels of soul power, never reaching the level of the title Douluo. But with the sacrifices of the ancestors of the angel family throughout history, her soul was restored to divine level, and at the same time, her body was burned into charcoal in the flames. To some extent, as long as the soul power is not exhausted, Qianrenxue can continue to struggle and even have a chance of resurrection. However, this condition is difficult to achieve. When Tang San died, his heart was pulled out by Bibi Dong. In the end, his resurrection relied on the remnants of the Sea God Island, Oscar, Ning Rongrong's ninth soul skill, and the devout faith of 1,000,000 soldiers. The resurrection of Qianrenxue does not necessarily have such conditions. The most likely one is that her soul power has been consumed for tens of thousands of years and ultimately completely extinguished. Revenge. Qianrenxue seemed to have heard the instructions of Douluo, and even after the death of the grandfather known as the Great Sacrifice, he still protected her. Qianrenxue, with hope and despair, melted into the flames of the burning city. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Shadow of Aristocratic Families. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Shadow of Aristocratic Families. Teacher Xue. Jiang Nannan shook his hand in front of Xue Bei and said, "Are you okay?" "It's okay." With slightly lost focus in his pupils, Xue Bei responded by giving Jiang Nannan a smile. Being interrupted by Qianrenxue, Xue Bei also felt a bit urgent. When Jiang Nannan finished eating, Xue Bei sent him back to the dormitory. Afterwards, Xue Bei returned to his own faculty apartment at Resurrecting College to practice. In fact, Xue Bei's cultivation speed is not slow. At the age of 20, the Soul Emperor's cultivation level can be considered as the first tier of Douluo continent, excluding those who have been exposed. But Xue Bei looked at Qianrenxue's intention, probably hoping that he would cultivate her to the title Douluo within 2 years. What can Xue Bei do? After a night of cultivation, Xue Bei was about to go out to teach the students, but suddenly received a notice. Dean Yen wants me to go to Haishan Island. Xue Bei looked at Director Dou Federation in front of him, his heart trembling slightly, and his face was also very unnatural. Dou Federation chuckled. "Okay, I'll pack up and get on my horse." Xue Bei concealed the expression on his face and whispered to Qianrenxue in the Sea of Spirit, "Your movements yesterday were not discovered, were they?" "Impossible. But there are not only super Douluo powerhouses on the Sea God Island. That dragon god Douluo Mulao is not inferior to your grandfather." Xue Bei hesitated for a moment and continued to ask. Like countless hidden families, Resurrecting Academy also understands the principle of keeping one's guard low. The world only knows that Resurrecting College has the most powerful Douluo titles on the mainland, but it has never been known how strong the upper limit of the Douluo titles of Resurrecting College is. Is it the title Douluo? Is it Super Douluo? It's even more terrifying Extreme Douluo. Qianrenxue rolled her eyes in the Sea of Spirit and replied to Xue Bei, "As I have said, divine-level souls cannot be discovered with just one Extreme Douluo. If it were a spirit-level Extreme Douluo, it would be almost the same." "I understand." Xue Bei had a sense of confidence in his heart and quickly sorted out his clothes to follow Dou Federation to the Sea God Island. The Sea God Island of Resurrecting College is located on Sea God Lake. As the name suggests, it was built in memory of the sea god Tang San, and it is also the true decision-making center and highest combat power of Resurrecting Academy. "What's the matter with Dean Yen looking for me?" Xue Bei flew up with his soul power and turned to ask Dou Federation. Dou Federation didn't look like a hongmen banquet and said in a conventional manner, "Old Yen just called you over, it seems to be related to the evil soul master." Xue Bei completely breathed a sigh of relief, and finding him to deal with the evil soul master problem can be considered a professional match. Because Xue Bei's martial soul is the sword of angels, just like all angelic martial souls and their derivative martial souls, this martial soul is specifically designed to counter the group of evil soul masters. Xue Bei once published a paper that discussed the angel martial soul and its derivative martial souls. Undoubtedly, the origin of angel martial souls comes from the six-winged angel family. The most orthodox one is definitely the Qianrenxue lineage, a pure six-winged angel martial soul. The innate soul power is level 20, and it also has 3 attributes: sacred, light, and flame. But after Qianrenxue self-immolated, the orthodox lineage of this angel was cut off. The holy angel martial souls and healing angel martial souls that are currently circulating on the Douluo continent belong to collateral branches. How did the collateral branch of the angel family come about? For example, a young master from the six-winged angel family transformed into a stallion and showed mercy everywhere, resulting in many children with angelic bloodlines outside. The generation of children may not be angelic martial souls, but they all carry angelic bloodline. After many years of inheritance, the gene of invisible angelic martial souls suddenly became dominant, and a powerful soul master of angelic martial souls appeared on Douluo continent. However, since this angelic gene cannot always remain dominant, the descendants of angelic martial soul masters may not necessarily be angelic martial souls. And this is also an excuse used by Xue Bei to explain how his angel sword martial soul came about. Xue Bei could never have said to the teacher in charge of political review at Shrek College, "My angel sword martial soul was personally given by the angel god Qianrenxue, and I actually have no angel bloodline." The area of Haishan Lake is very large, and Xue Bei followed Du Weiluan for 5 minutes before crossing the mist and arriving at Haishan Island, where various pavilions and towers were built. Although Xue Bei was curious about the layout of Haishan Island, he dared not use his spiritual power to test it. He only dared to observe these buildings hidden in the mist with the naked eye. With such a heavy fog and humidity, I don't know if those elderly residents living on Haishan Island will get arthritis. Du Weiluan led Xue Bei along a stone path towards the depths of Sea God Island, while Xiaozhe stood there waiting for Xue Bei. Din Yen. Xue Bei bowed respectfully. This is the leader's leadership, and he dare not be impolite. He. Although Yen Xiaozhe is over 90 years old and has a white beard, he is neatly trimmed and his face still carries the handsome demeanor of a young man. Xue Bei thought that Yen Xiaozhe should discuss the matter of the evil soul master with him next, but he didn't expect Yen Xiaozhe's first sentence to be, "Good kid, I didn't expect you to have some connection with the eternal family. You're hiding it deep." Xue Bei's face remained calm and he did not deny, "I am indeed friends with the young master of the eternal family." Yen Xiaozhe's eyes showed a hint of kindness. In 10,000 years, the Douluo continent has not actually undergone any fundamental changes. Whether it's the empire of sun and moon, or whether the Douluo continent originally belonged to the three kingdoms, regardless of which country, aristocratic families and clans still dominate the main resources of the Douluo continent. The attitude of Shrek Academy towards the aristocratic families originally belonging to the three kingdoms is always friendly. After all, they formed a deep friendship 10,000 years ago, and the aristocratic families are also willing to send their children to Shrek Academy for training, so the relationship and interests between the two sides are even closer. The Eternal Family is a member of a noble family, also known as the Panlong Stick family. Its ancestral history can be traced back to the era of the Martial Soul Hall, but was it the Panlong Stick family or an ancient surname? After the defeat in the Martial Soul Hall, the ancestors of the Pan-Dragon Stick family, Qianjun Douluo and demons subduing Douluo, surrendered to the Heavenly Dou Empire and became enshrined in the royal family. After experiencing several generations of dormancy, the Panlong Stick family became less sensitive to the identity of the remnants of the Martial Soul Hall, and instead began to identify themselves as the inheritor of the Martial Soul Hall, changing their surname to Eternal. This 1,000 words, nature is the character, 1,000, in the angel family. The current Xingu family is still in a state of seclusion, but the resources and noble agents they have accumulated and supported are scattered throughout the Douluo continent, which originally belonged to the three kingdoms. It can be said that the strength of the ancient family is at its peak, and it is an unprecedented peak. Perhaps this is the reason why they will eventually be able to master the transmission tower in 10,000 years. The young master of the eternal family is indeed the nobleman you hit. Yen Xiaozhe vigorously patted Xue Bei's back as a gesture of closeness. Xue Bei remained silent, waiting for Yen Xiaozhe's next words. "I want to give you a task about the evil soul master incident in Wushan City on the banks of the Barak River." Yen Xiaozhe finally started talking about business and handed over a document from the soul guide. Xue Bei took the information and said, "I understand, it's just. I'm not a member of the Shrek monitoring team. The Shrek Inspectorate is specifically responsible for supervising soul masters in Douluo continent, and they can even target officials from the three major empires. Once there is a malignant event on the mainland that cannot be regulated or is not regulated by the three empires, or if soul masters commit evil, Shrek's inner court disciples will take action to solve it. At this time, Shrek's inner courtyard students were referred to as supervisors. So the Shrek inner court also has a nickname, the Shrek Inspectorate. Xue Bei only thinks that this supervision team is a joke. Give an example. When Qianrenxue was about to be sold to the Xianming family, why didn't the Shrek supervisory team rush to achieve justice? Is not what the Xianming family has done a crime against women's will? Is there any fundamental difference between the Xianming family borrowing the chastity of girls to improve their martial souls and the evil soul master using the lives of others to cultivate soul power? Scorpion Tiger Douluo was labeled as an evil soul master just by using animal blood for cultivation. The Xianming family, using human chastity cultivation, is not an evil soul master anymore. Jiang Nan is still a student at Shrek College. Is that how Shrek Academy protects its students? As a teacher, Xue Bei envies the teaching staff and treatment of Shrek College, but he cannot accept this kind of professional ethics. Now you are. Yan Xiaozhe once again said, the teachers and disciples in the inner courtyard who have official positions are all members of the Shrek supervision team. I understand. Yan Xiaozhe pointed to the materials in Xue Bei's hand and said, please let go of the teaching tasks in the academy and complete them first. The Heavenly Soul Empire is pressing for them. Okay. After Xue Bei saluted and watched Yan Xiaozhe leave, he then left the Sea God Island. Xue Bei walked through the waves on the Sea God Lake, and after being far away from the Sea God Island, he finally opened an internal network, Spirit Sea, chat with Qianrenxue. Hehe, I asked why I suddenly got promoted to the civil service this year. It turns out that the dean only got promoted for the sake of the face of the eternal family. Xue Bei smiled somewhat self-deprecatingly. Qianrenxue also dared to step forward after leaving the Sea God Island and said, isn't it good for you to obtain the organization as soon as possible? And this must have been helped by the Qinggu Canglin from the Qinggu family. Xue Bei landed by the lake and turned his head to look at the outline of Haishan Island deep in the mist. I'm just not feeling well, he said, not feeling well. In terms of strength, it is something I have diligently cultivated step by step. On teaching, my students are all hard-earned. On the study of martial souls, I also wrote those papers carefully. I have been working hard for so long, why can't I be ranked based on my grades? In the end, it's not as useful as one sentence from Brother Qinggu. Xue Bei felt amused and a bit uncomfortable in his heart. I originally thought that obtaining this position was due to my own efforts in teaching students, which was evident to the college leaders. That's why I was able to obtain this position. I didn't expect it. Turns out it was this guy from Eternal Canglin who helped to establish relationships. It's not that Xue Bei should blame Qinggu Canglin for helping to establish relationships, but for someone like Xue Bei, establishing relationships is a lack of trust in his abilities. Xue Bei even thought more conspiratorially, no wonder teacher Zhou fired so many students, but nothing happened. Because teacher Fan Yu is the successor of Dean Qian. The seemingly fairest place is the place where relationships are most important. Qianrenxue nodded in agreement and then naturally asked in response. Isn't it like this on the mainland? For thousands of years, always like this, is that right? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Bei Bei and Tangya by the Barak River. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Bei Bei and Tangya by the Barak River. Douluo continent, Barak River bank. Xue Bei stood by the river bank, facing a cold wind. He gazed at the starlit cargo ships and the lights of the city across the vast river. The Barak River has nurtured the fertile immediate plain, which has been the land economic center of the entire Douluo continent since 10,000 years ago. Upstream from the Barak River, one can find corn and wheat from the north, while downstream from the Barak River, one can find iron ore from the south. 10,000 years ago, the Barak River can lead upstream to the ancient Heavenly Dou Empire, while downstream it leads to the iron-blooded Star Luo Empire. 10,000 years later, this place will still be a gathering place for people from all over the world. The captain from the Heavenly Soul Empire has a flat nasal tone, the navigator from the Spirit Empire has a low-pitched tone, and the people of the Star Luo Empire speak incomprehensible dialects. Of course, these have nothing to do with Xue Bei. He is neither a historian, I'm not a geographer either, not even a linguist. Xue Bei is just an ordinary Shrek teacher. So you came here to travel. Angel goddess sister Qianrenxue appeared by Xue Bei's side, her current appearance being a golden light and shadow, with golden long hair and skin surpassing snow. Today during the day, Xue Bei arrived at Wushan City by the Barak River. He went to eat, drink, and see the scenic area everywhere. In the evening, he even went to the Barak River to enjoy the night breeze. Is this what it should be like to arrest an evil soul master? Otherwise. Xue Bei's sincere tone left Qianrenxue speechless for a moment. You. Qianrenxue stuttered. Xue Bei smiled slightly and said, actually, I investigated it today and the situation is very simple. A month ago. A month ago, a sensational event occurred in Wushan City on the banks of the Barak River. A bold evil soul master broke into the Lord's mansion in broad daylight and killed the Lord Zhao and several young girls who were lying in the open shade. Then, the evil soul master retreated from Wushan City as if entering an uninhabited realm. The Heavenly Soul Empire felt ashamed and entrusted this matter to Shrek Academy. Why not use the power of the Heavenly Soul Empire itself? Because the local officials were afraid of death and kicked the matter to Tiando City, and the officials in Tiando City didn't want to move and kicked the matter back to the local authorities. Finally, after a month of wrangling, the Heavenly Soul Empire decided to kick the matter to Shrek Academy. Qianrenxue had already known about the fine traditions of the Heavenly Soul, Dou, Empire 10,000 years ago, so she directly asked. What about the martial soul and soul power levels of that evil soul master? I don't even know. 1,000 feet of snow. So you investigated a loneliness. Teacher Xue. Who are you talking to? The shouting from behind scared Xue Bei and Qianrenxue at the same time. Xue Bei was agitated, as if he had been caught playing with his phone in class by the teacher in his previous life. The silly hair on Qianrenxue's head was so high that she realized later that most people couldn't see her. 1,000 feet of snow. Are you Bei Bei and Tanya? Xue Bei turned his head to look at the young girl. Tang Yaden has a phoenix-eyed melon seed face, with long black hair combed into a ponytail hanging behind him. Bei Bei has a slender and upright figure, and her handsome and elegant face carries a hint of a lazy and gentle smile. Although Xue Bei has not taught these two classmates, he still has some understanding of these two celebrity students. Bei Bei has strong strength and excellent talent, and is a shining pearl in the overall social environment of Douluo continent. Although Tang Ya's strength is slightly inferior, she always hopes to attract people into the Tang clan, just like pyramid schemes, which naturally have a great reputation. Wow! It's a living teacher Xue. Tang Ya shouted again when she saw Xue Bei react. Bei Bei. Xue Bei. Just like Bei Bei is a celebrity student, Xue Bei is also considered a somewhat famous teacher at Shrek College. My teaching ability is reasonable, and I don't have any heirs on my own. I am also enthusiastic about helping students. Which student wouldn't like this kind of teacher? What student doesn't know? Xiaoya. It's not very polite to say this, Bei Bei awkwardly tugged at Tanya's sleeve. I don't care, Xue Bei explained, then looked at Bei Bei and Tanya with a slightly eerie expression. Aren't you supposed to be at school? Tang Yagu smiled mischievously and said, we're still on vacation. Although we only have a few days left, of course we should have fun. Bei Bei saw Tangya offline and helplessly helped his forehead, adding, Teacher Xue, we are planning to return to school after finishing our soul hunting. Senior high school is now starting, but we haven't started yet. Soul hunting. Xue Bei glanced at Bei Bei. This blue electric tyrant dragon soul master was already the third ring soul master, so only Tang Yaluo. That's right, I need a third soul ring. Tangya felt a bit embarrassed when she said this. Tangya's talent is not good, and her cultivation is not as good as other talented students in the college, so the hard assessment in the college is very difficult for her. Blue Silver Grass Martial Soul. It's not like Blue Silver Emperor. Getting into the third year of Shrek Academy is considered lucky and hardworking. When I'm done, I can help you hunt souls, Xue Bei took the initiative to say. Will this be too troublesome for Teacher Xue? Bei Bei felt it was inappropriate and wanted to refuse. Xue Bei shook his head and said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not the first time I've been helping students hunt souls. The reason why Xue Bei has a good reputation in the college is not only because he is good-looking, but also because he is willing to help others. Not only did Xue Bei help treat Jiang Nanan's mother's illness, but he also hunted souls for those students from poor families. Students from wealthy families don't have to worry about soul rings, and their families will arrange them for them. However, soul hunting for students from ordinary families is a long-standing problem. For outstanding students, Shrek Academy will assist in soul hunting, however, in places like Shrek College, where people are considered proud of themselves, most geniuses can only be considered ordinary students, and of course, they cannot have the opportunity to enjoy the college's soul hunting services. So for this group of ordinary and strong students, Xue Bei's willingness to help them hunt souls is simply a great kindness. Of course, Xue Bei is not a saint either. The word selflessness is not very related to Xue Bei. The real purpose of Xue Bei's actions is actually to cultivate a group of students who are willing to follow him in doing great things. This major event is not only about dealing with Tang San, but also about realizing Xue Bei's own ideal. A selfish ideal that can be remembered in history. Thank you, Teacher Xue. Tangya smiled heartlessly and happily. Bei Bei, on the other hand, has much more emotional intelligence. He said, so, Teacher Xue, what are you busy with now? Is there anything we can do to help? There is no free lunch in the world, and Bei Bei knows that no merit is rewarded. Xue Bei shook his head, indicating that he didn't need the help of Bei Bei and the others. I'm currently working on a case involving the evil soul master, which is very dangerous and has nothing to do with you. It's best for you to leave here first. Teacher Xue, we can. I know what your next sentence is and your sense of justice is exploding, but don't let me say it again. The evil soul master is very dangerous, and it's not something you kids from the third ring can intervene in. Xue Bei also glanced at Tangya and said, besides, there is a great soul master from the second ring here. Tangya. I'm actually at level 30, but I don't have a third soul ring, Tangya whispered in defense. Xue Bei didn't listen to Tangya's low beep, but stared at Bei Bei. You can't be unaware of the difference caused by the soul master losing one soul ring. Bei Bei nodded rationally and grabbed Tangya, who was still trying to say something. Let's not disturb Teacher Xue anymore. Tangya wanted to say something more to refute, but was directly pulled away by Bei Bei. Let's go, let's go. Hello, hello. Bei Bei. The two of them just frolicked and left. It's great to be young. Xue Bei watched the two of them leave and couldn't help but turn his back like an old man. Although he is only 20 years old, he is 5 years older than Bei Bei. Do you think they will listen to your advice? At the age of 15, it is the time when the sense of justice is strongest. Qianrenxue came out again, watching Bei Bei and Tangya leave behind. Tangya, the leader of the Tang sect, is also known by Qianrenxue. To be honest, when Qianrenxue saw the current decline of the Tang clan, the previous excitement has turned into calmness, even ridiculous sympathy. Excited because Qianrenxue felt that Tang San, you also have today. The Tang sect you created has declined, calm is because the Tang clan has declined to this point, and Tang San in the divine realm has not responded at all. It is difficult not to make Qianrenxue doubt whether Tang San has feelings for the Tang clan, or is it just a tool. The ridiculous sympathy was due to Qianrenxue seeing Tangya, a blue-silver grass soul master, running around like a pyramid scheme in the face of the collapse of his sect. You don't even have Tang San's bloodline, nor have you received Tang San's favor. Why work hard for a Tang sect that Tang San doesn't even care about? Do you listen or not? Of course I will. Xue Bei answered without any hesitation. Tangya is hard to say, but Bei is not the kind of person who likes to cause trouble, unless. Unless for what? Unless. They are so unlucky that they will directly encounter the evil soul master when they return. 1,000 feet of snow. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Xue Bei with high emotional intelligence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Xue Bei with high emotional intelligence. The next day. The Barak River flows slowly, and Zhao Gongzi also flows slowly in warm water and the tenderness of a girl. Sir, the Shrek inspection team has arrived. A servant reported outside the door. Okay. Zhao Gongzi stood up, pushed away the girl, and his servant helped him clean the water marks on his body and put on a brand new and appropriate clothes. Zhao Gongzi's father is the lord of the city, with a wealthy family background. Although his cultivation talent is average, it is enough for him to inherit the position of the lord. This wealthy and idle young man's favorite thing in his life is to enjoy and find excitement, while Zhao's favorite enjoyment is to ride his own cruise ship on the Barak River. Hi, hi yo yo yo, ho hi, drag, drag, drag. The horse boatman's call came from outside. It was the boatman on the Barak River. Hundreds of boats compete on the Barak River, and many timber, agricultural and sideline products, and daily necessities are transported in and out by ships. The boatmen play a crucial role here. The boatmen walked forward with a limp gait, without wearing clothes, bending their bodies and carrying stiff ropes, while Zhao Gongzi's cruise ship stood on the river, with its cabins and railings painted with snowy new paint. Zhao Gongzi's leather boots clattered as he stepped on the spacious and magnificent oak stairs, as if stepping on the sleek back of the boatman. It is harmful to the morals. Zhao Gongzi glanced at the boatman by the river, sneered contemptuously, feeling very eye-catching, and scolded. Drive them all away. What would the commissioner of Shrek's supervisory team think about these people here? Is Wushan City a very poor city? Wushan City is not poor. Xue Beiguang saw the busy boatmen on the Barak River and knew how many goods were transported in and out of Wushan City in a day. With such a large flow, as long as the lord of Wushan City was not a fool, he should be very wealthy. Is the governance of Zhao Qingzhu in Wushan City good? Qianrenxue asked in the sea of spirit. Well, although it's for my own benefit, I have indeed done a lot of practical things. Xue Bei nodded and said that in the environment where imperial aristocratic officials were generally not involved in personnel matters, Zhao Qingzhu's development of Wushan City can be said to be capable and good. It's just that I'm still stubborn. Starting 2.5 years ago, there are rumors of mischievous soul masters in the area of Wushan City, such as the disappearance of some children in Wushan City. At first, no one cared. Missing children are so normal on the mainland. They were picked up by wild dogs to eat, drowned in the Barak River, and abducted. Lord Zhao thinks this is a small matter. How many missing children were caused by the evil soul master? Perhaps every city in Douluo continent has evil soul masters. More importantly, if there were really evil soul masters, wouldn't the group of grandfathers from Doqin be blamed on him that day? Is this okay? The most important thing in being a hereditary official is not to seek meritorious service, but to seek no fault. As long as there is no fault, even if the Heavenly Soul Emperor comes, he cannot deprive himself of his title. So Lord Zhao chose to conceal it. As long as you can't see it, even if there's no such thing. Starting this year, the evil soul master finally revealed his chicken feet in Wushan City. A deceased person who was drained of blood was discovered and confirmed to have been killed by an evil soul master. In theory, this kind of thing about the evil soul master should be highly valued by the Lord's mansion, but the Lord's mansion has chosen to conceal it. When Xue Bei saw this, there was no turbulence in his heart. The operation of Lord Zhao can only be said to be an excellent tradition in the Douluo continent. However, Zhao Qingzhu thought it would be okay to keep it a secret, but the Heavenly Dou had a good cycle. Last month, the evil soul master directly entered the Qingzhu mansion and severely injured Zhao Qingzhu himself. Zhao Qingzhu couldn't hold on and died. I can't hide it now. So the Shrek supervisory team received the news, and it was only then that Xue Bei arrived. What we want to see now is the only son of Lord Zhao, Prince Zhao. As Xue Bei spoke, he couldn't help but frown as he saw a group of people getting off the white cruise ship and starting to drive away the boatmen. What's wrong with this young Master Zhao? The Lord has orders, drive them away. Those who got off the ship arrogantly, one by one, proudly drove away the boatmen. Qianrenxue heard the servants say that the lord of the city had an order, and thought that the lord of Zhao had not died. He asked, does the lord of the city have an order? Is the lord of Zhao not dead? Not the lord of Zhao, it's the prince of Zhao. Xue Bei answered. The lord of the Heavenly Soul Empire is hereditary, and this tradition originated from the Heavenly Dou Empire back then. The Qianrenxue Empire had weak control over the local area, resulting in the independence of various kingdoms and principalities, and even the Star Luo Empire was a former rebel. In the era when the Martial Soul Empire was established, those kingdom principalities also gained independence again and merged into the Martial Soul Empire. And then the Martial Soul Empire was destroyed by the sea god Tang San. The problem of excessive local power that has plagued the Qianrenxue Empire for many years has been eliminated together, and the Qianrenxue Empire has finally maintained centralization. Xue Bei felt that the flaws were comparable to India's complete reunification under British colonization. However, at that time, the Avalanche Emperor did not consider pursuing victory and continuing to gather local power to make reforms, and the fundamental institutional issues of the Qianrenxue Empire were still unresolved. So shortly after the death of the Avalanche Emperor, the Qianrenxue Empire once again fell into a vicious circle of strong branches and weak stems, until the second outbreak of Qianrenxue internal strife. Compared to the royal roommates who fought in the first internal conflict, the second internal conflict was initiated by local nobles. The Grand Duke was conflicted by the strong feudal forces in the local area and attacked Qianrenxue City, calling it the Qin Jun side. The royal family of the Xue family fled in embarrassment, and later gathered their forces in Lingdou City to barely maintain their territory, which became the later Douling Empire. The rebellious Grand Duke occupied Qianrenxue City and established the Heavenly Soul Empire. In theory, an empire established by a group of strong feudal lords should be reduced even more by the emperor because he is afraid that his subordinates will rebel like him. However, the Heavenly Soul Empire still follows the same hereditary system as the Douling Empire. It is estimated that the Heavenly Soul Emperor is afraid that the lower officials will clear the emperor's side again due to the reduction of fiefdoms 10,000 years ago. The Nodding City where Tang San studied was the hereditary lord, and Xiao Laoda was the young lord. 10,000 years later, Wushan City will continue to be the hereditary lord, and Zhao Gongzi will be the young lord. The Douling Empire is also like a bird. Xue Bei said that if this continues, the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Douling Empire will eventually split again. Seeing someone approaching to greet him, Xue Bei put aside his grievances and announced his name. Shrek Inspection Team, Xue Bei. Mr. Xue, please come with me. The servants led Xue Bei onto the white cruise ship. The polished oak staircase is wide and magnificent, with elegant grooves on the railing. Xue Bei admires the floral decorations on the colonnade and guard pillars as he walks. Arriving at the navigation room, Prince Zhao was already ready to welcome him and warmly greeted Xue Bei. Xue Bei also greeted Prince Zhao and observed him. Zhao Gongzi was dressed in white attire, wearing a red silk tie and a ring adorned with a huge ruby. A very naughty person. This is Xue Bei's first impression of Prince Zhao. Shrek's master has arrived, and the problem with the evil soul master should be solved. I also hope that Commissioner Xue can find the evil soul master as soon as possible and bring him to justice. Zhao Gongzi's face was covered with a fake smile. It is our responsibility to eliminate the evil soul master. Xue Bei was very uncomfortable with this fake smile, and then looked around as if looking for something. Zhao Gongzi. Xue Bei spoke solemnly and said, I hope to see your father's body. Zhao Gongzi. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. There are bad people inside the Lord's mansion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. There are bad people in the Lord's mansion. Zhao Gongzi's fake smile froze on his face. No matter how outrageous he is, he would never have thought that Xue Bei would come to him. Do you, Commissioner Xue, lack any emotional intelligence and politeness? Just come up and ask others if they can take a look at their father's body. I'm not joking. Xue Bei stared at Mr. Zhao with a serious expression. When Zhao Gongzi reported to the Shrek supervision team, he only said that Zhao Qingzhu had been killed by the evil soul master, but Xue Bei still hoped that it would be better to open the coffin and have the corpse examined. Xue Bei can deduce the strength and techniques of the evil soul master from the wound of the deceased, in order to intentionally defend against that evil soul master's means. The remains of our ancestors have just been buried. Zhao Gongzi's face stiffened and he quickly changed the topic. Commissioner Xue, let's come first. Xue Bei did not stay long on this topic and followed Zhao Gongzi into the cabin. Judging from Zhao Gongzi's reaction, it is estimated that Xue Bei will not be given a chance to undergo an autopsy. Even if Xue Bei were not a member of the Shrek supervision team, he might have been kicked out by Prince Zhao. Please, Commissioner Xue. The interior space of Zhao Gongzi's cabin was luxurious, and Xue Bei walked in curiously to look around. Although Xue Bei entered the middle class of Douluo continent through his own efforts, he still belongs to the category of rural bumpkins compared to the hereditary aristocrats like Zhao Gongzi. The cabin has wide-colored glass windows, soft and luxurious black velvet curtains on both sides, as well as 2 large leather chairs and a spacious mahogany writing desk. Commissioner Xue, do you want to drink some wine? Zhao Gongzi asked. Without waiting for Xue Bei to refuse, Zhao Gongzi had already arranged for the servants. A waiter wearing a thick, snow-white tailcoat pushed a brass cart into the cabin, with 2 silver tall glasses and a crystal wine bottle on the tray. Soul Master. Xue Bei's eyebrows twitched. He was very sensitive to the feeling of soul power, so when the waiter walked in, Xue Bei discovered that the servant pouring wine was actually a soul master. Although the number of soul masters has increased significantly compared to thousands of years ago, the number of soul masters in the entire Douluo continent is still relatively small. Soul masters are born with the ability to cultivate soul power, and compared to ordinary people who have martial souls but no soul power, they are born with a higher platform. Will this soul master be willing to be a servant to others? Well, it's normal for a low-level soul master to become a servant of a high-level soul master, as the upper-level person is still a noble family. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been Jiang Nannan almost selling herself to the Xianming family. Xue Bei and Zhao Gongzi sat in 2 leather chairs, and the waiter placed the tray from the brass cart on the low table between them. Then he pulled out a shiny ivory-handled dagger. Commissioner Xue, Zhao Si is my personal follower, naturally also a first-ring soul master, said Prince Zhao calmly. This bartender's original name was Zhao Si. A very pleasant name. Xue Bei thought to himself. Zhao Si scraped off the wax seal, lightly turned his wrist, inserted a dagger into the cork, and pulled it out with a boom sound. The liquid slowly flowed into the silver cup. "Commissioner Xue, please," said Zhao Gongzi with a smile. "Please," Xue Bei politely picked up the silver tall cup. People from Douluo continent are naturally fond of discussing things at the table, and Xue Bei only took a few sips before returning to the issue of the evil soul master. And this time, Zhao Gongzi also answered every question and introduced many situations. "May I ask if Mr. Zhao can explain the situation again at that time?" Xue Bei asked. Zhao Gongzi nodded and said, "At that time, I was on a cruise ship and heard from my father's subordinates that he was only handling official affairs alone in the Lord's mansion, and was then ambushed and killed by the evil soul master who infiltrated." "Oh." Xue Bei nodded. "Dealing with official duties. I remember the news I heard in the city was clearly that Lord Zhao was lying down." Zhao Gongzi continued, "When they heard my father's screams, they went to his room to check, and when they entered the room and found his body, the evil soul master had already left." "How much time has passed?" "Ah." Zhao Gongzi asked in confusion. "I mean, how long did it take from the assassination of Lord Zhao to the discovery of the body?" Xue Bei asked. Zhao Gongzi fell into silence, and then he looked at Zhao Si. Xue Bei. "No, it's not, as the son of the deceased, have you never paid attention to your father? Do you still need Zhao Si to answer? Can he answer?" "Less than 3 minutes." Zhao Si surprisingly answered. Xue Bei. "Who is the son of Lord Zhao?" Xue Bei pointed to the direction of Wushan City, and from this perspective, it was bright and dazzling. "Actually, I came yesterday." Zhao Gongzi picked up his glass and took a sip, continuing to listen to Xue Bei's story. "I have also looked at the Lord's mansion in Wushan City, and it is really well built. Unlike some cities' government offices, which deliberately do not repair their offices to highlight their integrity. I can even tell that the Lord's mansion used to be a military fortress." Military fortress. Zhao Gongzi has been living here for so long, and he still doesn't know that his Lord's mansion still has this military function. As early as 10,000 years ago, Wushan City, as a transportation hub on the Barak River, had already been built by the Barak Kingdom. When the martial Soul Empire was destroyed, Wushan City was originally burned down. It was not until the Second Qianrenxue Civil War that it was clearly endowed with the significance of military frontiers. Xue Bei has said a lot and is familiar with the history of this city. "And then?" Zhao Gongzi asked, feeling a bit drunk. Xue Bei picked up his wine glass but didn't drink it. Instead, he shook it slightly, causing the wine to ripple. In the following time, Wushan City became the front line of the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Doling Empire, and the millennium-long struggle between the two countries was centered around the Barak River. As a border city, Wushan City was a fortress complex, until in the past few hundred years, the Heavenly Soul Empire firmly controlled both sides of the Barak River. Due to the development of land, the fortress complex of Wushan City was gradually dismantled. "Thank you, Professor Xue from Shrek College, for tutoring me in a history class." Zhao Gongzi has become a bit impatient. "So what?" As a remnant of the fortress complex, the facilities and terrain inside the Lord's mansion have been designed, and only a few people are needed to see and defend a large area. Is it possible for outsiders to complete the assassination and escape in 3 minutes? Of course not for outsiders. How could an outsider who is not familiar with the terrain of the Lord's mansion be able to complete the assassination and escape in just 3 minutes? Moreover, the Lord of Zhao is still a powerful Soul Emperor. Kill a Soul Emperor and escape without a trace within 3 minutes. Be quick to attack the Soul Emperor, skilled at concealing breath. Are you saying that evil Soul Master is an insider of the Lord's mansion? Zhao Gongzi patted the table and stood up, angrily saying to Zhao Si, "You go investigate and find someone to hand him over to Commissioner Xue. If outsiders do not understand the internal structure of the Lord's mansion, then naturally only the internal people will be there. Zhao Gongzi, don't worry for now. Xue Bei stopped the drunken young master Zhao, hoping that he wouldn't be so impulsive. Don't worry, Commissioner Xue. I will definitely handle this matter. Zhao Gongzi announced once again that he would thoroughly investigate the inner ghost before allowing Zhao Si to send Xue Bei out. Commissioner Xue, please. Zhao Si wanted to help Xue Bei get off the ship, but Xue Bei politely refused. At this moment, there was no trace of alcohol on Xue Bei's face, and he used his soul power to dispel the alcohol. Mr. Zhao Si, that evil soul master. Do you think he is an inner ghost? Zhao Si smiled gently and said, didn't Commissioner Xue say there was an insider? Although the internal layout of the Lord's mansion is complex, taking time to investigate can still determine the route. Xue Bei looked at Zhao Si with a smile and said, why did Mr. Zhao immediately confirm that there was an insider? He even wanted to catch someone urgently. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Xue Majin, Colonel North. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Xue, Majin Xiaowei, North, Commissioner Xue, what are you suspecting? Zhao Si asked. I was thinking, do you know how Zhao Gongzi's style is evaluated? Do you have any enemies? Zhao Si was stunned for a moment before pointing at himself with some disbelief, Commissioner Xue, are you asking me? Xue Bei nodded and said, of course, since you are a trusted figure of Prince Zhao, you should also have a better understanding of his affairs. What is the relationship between Zhao Gongzi and Zhao Qingzhu? This is the death of Lord Zhao, not the death of Prince Zhao. Zhao Si thought to himself. Sorry, I'm not sure, Zhao Si said confidently. Xue Bei did not stop at this question, but instead pointed to the boatman not far away and continued to ask Zhao Sadeo, why doesn't the boatman wear clothes when pulling fibers? Zhao Si didn't know how Xue Bei's brain circuit grew, so he had to explain. The clothes of the boatman are soaked in sweat and salt, and the wear and tear of the fibers cannot be managed for a few days. Moreover, the boatman also needs to take precautions against illness. Disease prevention. If you wear clothes, sometimes on the shore or in the water, and the clothes get dry and wet on your body, it's not only inconvenient, but also prone to diseases such as rheumatism and arthritis, so it's better not to wear clothes. Zhao Si explained to Xue Bei in great detail. Xue Bei looked at the scattered boatmen, who gathered together and looked up at Zhao Gongzi's cruise ship with a disheveled expression. You are very familiar with the life of a boatman. Zhao Si smiled shyly and said, I live here and should understand these things. Do you think Mr. Zhao is familiar with the life of a boatman? Do you know why they don't wear clothes? Xue Bei asked. Zhao Si didn't speak, he still looked cautious and cautious. Zhao Gongzi must not be very clear about the daily life and production labor of the boatman. Even if Zhao Gongzi knows, he may not empathize. Zhao Si knows this, but he can't say it. A servant cannot say that the master is not. Anyway, Zhao Gongzi is still Gongzi, and Zhao Si is Zhao Si. Thank you, Mr. Zhao, for your hospitality. Xue Bei strode towards the bank of the Barak River, while Zhao Si nodded and watched as Xue Bei left. Has he left? Zhao Gongzi walked out drunk and watched Xue Bei leave behind. Let's go, Zhao Si said respectfully. Give him intelligence and make him leave quickly. Zhao Gongzi's gaze changed from a moment of drunkenness to cunning, with even a hint of malice in his eyes. It's best if the dog bites the dog. Ha ha ha. Wushan City Suburb. Xue Bei walked into a group of tombs belonging to the ancestors of the Zhao family throughout history. 1,000 feet of snow drifted quietly beside Xue Bei, adding a ghostly aura to this eerie environment. Are you really going to do this? I think so. But doing it here. It's very dirty. It's okay, you can go up there and I'll move. Well. Okay. Xue Bei took out a large metal shovel from the storage soul guide, and then aimed it at the newly built cemetery below and fiercely shoveled it down. Bang! The soil turned outward, and with the blessing of soul power, Xue Bei directly shoveled it onto the coffin of Zhao City Lord. Buried so shallow. Xue Bei estimated the thickness of the coffin, hoping that the body of Lord Zhao had not been damaged with this shovel. Maybe you dug too deep, Qianrenxue said as if a ghost, perfectly blending into the atmosphere here. No. Xue Bei waved his arm again and flipped the soil out. Someone has touched the tomb of Lord Zhao. Such a wealthy family may have a large tomb, but how could they dig a pit and bury it like ordinary people? Since someone has touched him before, is it still useful to infer the cause of death from the body of Lord Zhao? Qianrenxue asked. Let's take a look first. Xue Bei quickly dug up the grave, and under the traction of soul power, the coffin of Jin Si Nan Mu was exposed. You're quite wealthy, a city lord can actually use this kind of coffin. Qianrenxue took the Zhao family's asset evaluation to another level. Xue Bei first bowed in all directions with his hands clasped together, reciting Mo Guai in his mouth, and then used his soul power to push open the coffin. Although this has no effect, Xue Bei believes that life still requires a sense of ceremony. Inside the coffin was a corpse, adorned with gold and silver jewelry and embroidered with a golden family emblem. Its face turned deathly blue, as if drinking too much chlorophyll. Poisoned to death. Qianrenxue felt that Xue Bei no longer needed to continue watching. This degree of greenness is no longer explained by eating too much chlorophyll. This green face was something even Douluo Dugu Bo didn't have back then, it belonged to being poisoned to the bone marrow. Zhao Gongzi reported to Shrek Academy that he had suffered a severe chest injury, but he did not provide any information on the toxin. Xue Bei opened the eyelids of Zhao Qingzhu and revealed the white inside his eyes, lamp. Qianrenxue rolled her eyes, rubbed Xue Bei's dog head with both hands, and then snapped her fingers, illuminating the entire upper body of Zhao Qingzhu. It's like a toxin from a poisonous vine, is it like the ghost face poison vine? Qianrenxue asked. Probably, my main attack direction is not plant-based martial souls. Xue Bei opened the clothes of Lord Zhao and saw a patch on his chest. Although it had undergone some cleaning, by gently pressing it down with his hand, he could see that the bones inside were loose. Kill with one strike. The original bone, which was pieced together from wood, has already been shattered. Apart from this big wound, there are no other small wounds on Lord Zhao's body. Xue Baidu could already imagine the confrontation between Zhao Qingzhu and the evil soul master. The evil soul master of Vine Martial Soul used sharp and thick branches and leaves to directly pierce through the chest of Lord Zhao, completing the release of toxins in an instant. Toxic and powerful, what else? Qianrenxue summarized on behalf of Xue Bei. Xue Bei put down his hand pressed on his chest and used his soul power to probe into the interior of Zhao Qingzhu, and absorb vitality. Although Zhao Qingzhu had a green and vibrant appearance outside, his interior was a withered area, which was a sign of his life force being forcibly deprived. The standard configuration of an evil soul master is to cultivate oneself with the lives of others, said Qianrenxue calmly. Xue Bei helped Lord Zhao tidy up his clothes and crown, and then covered his coffin. I remember Lord Zhao also had the cultivation of the Soul Emperor. He was able to defeat the evil soul master who would surely kill the Soul Emperor with one strike. What is his cultivation level? The evil soul saint and the evil soul emperor are different. Originally, the evil soul master was stronger than the average soul master. With the blessing of the martial soul true body, the evil soul saint will only become even stronger. Although Xue Bei's angel sword martial soul restrained the evil soul master, it was not impossible for the ship to capsize in the sewer under the true body of the evil soul saint's martial soul. After all, Zhao Qingzhu, who was at the same level as Xue Bei, died in one move at the hands of the evil soul master. Are you afraid? Evil soul saint, it's my first encounter. Xue Bei calmly buried the body of Zhao Qingzhu and said, "Let's go, we need to find the evil soul saint. Otherwise, when he goes crazy, I don't know how many ordinary people will be harmed." Over the years, Lord Zhao has shown no difference in his great lack of virtue towards the residents of Wushan City compared to the evil soul master. If he is killed by the evil soul master, it can only be called that the wicked have their own wicked grinding. But Xue Bei didn't want the common people to get hurt. They struggled to survive every day, and their lives didn't go well. As a result, they were inexplicably killed by the evil soul master. Xue Bei is not from a noble family, even though he is now a Shrek teacher. However, Xue Bei still believes that he is still a child of a tenant farmer family in the past, so Xue Bei still considers the common people. Perhaps it's called empathy for the same illness. Actually, it should be the soul emperor. Qianrenxue still drifted beside Xue Bei and followed him away from the Zhao family cemetery. Soul emperor. A soul master at the level of a soul saint cannot have lived peacefully for so many years. Qianrenxue looked up at Xue Bei and said. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Bei. There is an ominous premonition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Bei. There is an unknown premonition. Xue Bei also turned his head and stared at Qianrenxue, so. In the case of a surprise attack, there is indeed a possibility of being killed in one blow at the same level. Evil soul masters are basically restless lunatics, and killing is like drinking water for them. The higher the level, the greater the demand for human vitality and soul. At the level of evil soul saint. Do you think it's possible that the Barak River basin can calm down once in a few days? Qianrenxue asked in response. The martial soul hall started 10,000 years ago with the eradication of evil soul masters, and both Qian Daolu and Qianrenxue from the angel family served as the elder judge. The responsibility of the ruling elder is to eliminate all people or forces that threaten the status of the martial soul hall, and evil soul masters belong to the group that must be eradicated. So the advice from Qianrenxue is very informative. So, where is that poison vine evil soul master hiding now? Here it is. On the Barak River, Tanya leaned out half of her body on the boat and waved her hand. Come back. Come back. Bei quickly pulled Tanya back from the edge of the capsized boat, dancing and dancing. This is a unique fish of the Barak River. After being pulled down by Bei, Tanya lacked interest. Let's watch it again next time. Bei wiped her forehead and said to herself, does Xiaoya still have the potential to be a fisherman? This passenger ship has already sailed a considerable distance on the river, with Bei and Tanya sitting at the stern near the canopy exit. This position is ventilated and well lit, making it the best seat as long as it doesn't encounter rainy days. This ship is a mixed cargo ship, unlike Zhao Gongzi's cruise ship. It does not have advanced cabins and can travel short distances. Long-distance voyages are very difficult, but the advantage lies in its low price, and the passengers are mostly ordinary people. In theory, as top students at Shrek College, Bei and Tanya should not take such a boat. But, Bei and Tanya followed Xue Bei's advice and did not want to confront the evil soul master head on. So Bei and his companions hurriedly left Wushan City, and in their desperation, only this kind of boat could leave. After all, ships with advanced cabins are generally only affordable for soul masters, and they are usually either chartered or booked. In such urgent situations, there is definitely not enough time. Although Bei's family belongs to a noble family, he has good cultivation and sitting with the common people is not difficult for him. Tanya, not to mention, with a big heart, bought a big bag of snacks on the ship. Melon seeds, orange preserves, braised meat, roasted chicken, and so on. Just now, she went to see fish, and her heart was very big. Bei, this is very delicious. You can try it too. Tanya couldn't become a fisherman, so she turned into a snack grinder. Teacher Xiaoya, I still don't want to eat now, Bei Bei shook his head and refused. His dietary habit is to have 3 meals a day, and he rarely eats snacks. Moreover, Bei Bei and Tang sailed downstream from Wushan City and could reach their destination in less than half a day, so there was no need to eat on the boat. Okay, Tang ignored Bei Bei and started enjoying snacks on her own. Bei Bei looked at Tang with a hint of helplessness, about to say something, but was interrupted by a dispute on the ship. Fuck you. I bumped into my child, don't you know how to apologize? As soon as Bei Bei turned his head, he saw Qianrenxue hitting Laifu, cross it out. And he saw the two of them arguing and pushing. The middle-aged woman with her child sprayed saliva at a man. What's wrong? Before Bei Bei could react, Tang had already baiu and rushed out to inquire about gossip, patting a young man's shoulder with one hand. The young man who was called by Tang was originally very impatient, but when he turned around and saw that Tang was beautiful and dressed better than ordinary people, his momentum weakened a bit. When he saw Bei Bei with a noble face coming over, he almost turned into flattery. The child was hit by the man, and the woman hopes the man will compensate. Bei Bei glanced at the child and said, the child doesn't seem to have anything to do, why should we just lose money? Isn't this considered blackmail? Hee hee. This is blackmail, said the young man. After Bei Bei and Tang saw the woman shouting, several strong men also stood up together, condemning the man for being unreasonable and demanding compensation. So it's a group, Tang whispered in Bei Bei's ear. The boatman didn't want to worry about this mess, so he had to shout to the woman. Stop arguing. Stop arguing. Go ahead and get off the boat to argue. It's not about personal matters. The boatman has to row to earn money. Tang furrowed her brow. The middle-aged shrew was very skilled, even 9 out of 10, and various rural slang made the man speechless, while the child was still crying on the ground, which was annoying. Really? Tang was about to step out and intervene. Teacher Xiaoya, Bei Bei stopped Tang, it's useless to argue with such people. Although Bei Bei is a descendant of a noble family, she is not completely detached from the masses and has heard of the temperament of such middle-aged aunties. It's better to go to the evil soul master and tell him to put down his butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the ground, rather than going up to reason with such a rude and unreasonable person. Just as Bei Bei stopped Tang, this scene of blending various elements also reached its peak, and the woman finally went up and scratched the man's face with her nails. Bei Bei stepped forward to stop the woman, hoping that this would not turn into a fight. It's not that Bei Bei is meddling too much. His mind is even more delicate than Tang's, and he pays attention to the children around the woman. Don't let the woman scratch the man's face and the man get angry and hurt the child next to him. But in that moment, Bei Bei quickly took a step back and turned to protect Tang behind him. Bei Bei. Tang couldn't figure out the situation, only seeing Bei Bei's tall body completely blocking her from behind. Teacher Xiaoya, let's go. Representing the concentration of thunderous blue electric light, Bei Bei's right arm rapidly expanded, and in the midst of the blue light, the 2 yellow and 1 purple-blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex martial souls had already been released. What? After Bei Bei released his martial soul, his gentle temperament instantly became fierce, and he shouted loudly. Let's go. Evil Soul Master. Tang just saw that the man who had been hit with porcelain not far away had already started a killing spree. Black and red vines sprouted from the man's body, releasing 6 soul rings of 1 white, 2 yellow, and 3 purple. He raised his hand and grabbed the woman's neck in an instant, then inserted the vines into her body to suck on her vitality. The child and the strong man naturally did not escape the poison. Bei Bei could almost smell the strong smell of blood on the evil soul master's body. I'm from Shrek College, and my teacher is almost here. If you don't want to die, stop. Bei Bei shouted. A dazzling blue light suddenly lit up from the center of Bei Bei's eyebrows, and blue-purple electric waves burst out like small snakes, swimming around his body. Shrek. The evil soul master's eyes flickered with a cold and eerie radiance, turning his head to look at the noisy boatman. Any boatman who saw the radiance in his eyes panicked and lowered their heads, shivering all over their bodies. I don't know who led the way, but the boat passengers jumped into the water like dumplings and fled for their lives. In an instant, birds and beasts scattered, leaving only Xue Bei, Tang, and the evil soul master on board and the poor boatman. This boat is the one where the boatman eats. He can't leave, nor can he. I just received news that Shrek is going to send someone to catch me, and now it's blocked, hee hee. The evil soul master sneered. Xue Bei and Tang also understood that this guy was the evil soul emperor that teacher Xue Bei was going to arrest. They didn't expect to be bumped into so coincidentally. Tang. Xue Bei. I really hope this luck can be used in the right place next time. End of this chapter.